Yes, welcome back to the RWD Arsenalisis channel, where we analyze and assess the matches and players of the Arsenal Football Club. This video will be an analysis of the recent friendly match against Villareal. Arsenal's approach to this game was significantly different from the previous friendlies. The focus seemed to be a strong attacking effort, along with a persistent frontal press. When on the ball, Arsenal performed with a 3-3-4 formation up until the final third, at which point virtually every outfield player, minus the defenders and the person on the ball, were inside of the box. When off the ball, Arsenal tried to exert intense pressure on the Villareal players while they tried to play out from the back. While it did result in a few turnovers, no goals were scored by these efforts. Unfortunately, apart from the lack of goals scored by the press, 2 goals were conceded in the first half because of it. Well, it really was a combination of persistent pressing by some and poor backtracking by others that led to the goals. For the first goal, we can see an attempt to pressure the Villareal players by Saka and co. But Martinelli and Gyökeres were not making runs back to close the gap in the midfield, which meant that Lewis Skelly could not fully direct his attention towards Pepe, who eventually gets the ball from a long pass from Villareal and sets up the play that leads to the first goal. The second goal had a similar problem. We saw the Villareal player Sergi Cardona make an uncontested run down the line and receives the ball from Moliero, then delivers the cross that leads to the second goal. It's difficult to tell who's at fault for the player running freely towards the goal, but the body language of Manieri while seeing the player run past him doesn't paint the best picture for him. His pressing also wasn't that impressive against Villareal in the build-up to the first goal either. The third goal Villareal scored was due to a simple long pass towards Danjuma after Comesana slips past Declan Rice. Since all of the players were in the opponent's half, the pacey forward had a straight run towards the goal and was able to finish without much resistance. Arsenal's 2 goals came from set pieces, so there isn't much to analyze when it comes to build-up play and tactics for those goals. We got to see a bit more of Gyökeres, and for the 63 minutes that he played, he had 14 touches and 2 shots, one of which was on target. While those numbers aren't especially impressive, his movement when on the ball showed a lot of promise. It also highlighted the difference between a proper number 9 striker in Gyökeres compared to false nines like Havertz and Gabi Jesus. He essentially played as a point man when Arsenal had the ball, only making movements wide sometimes when the wingers drove inside. I do think if Arsenal played with their normal tactics, he would have gotten a lot more service. Speaking of service, we only got to see about 15 minutes of Madueke, but it was a bit refreshing to see a left-footed winger playing on the left. The 2 crosses he attempted and his ability to make the space for himself to execute those crosses might lead to some good outcomes in the future whenever he and Gyökeres are on the field at the same time. A cross from the left by a left footer can happen at any time and is therefore more of a threat than a right footer who has to stop and turn, which slows the play down and potentially allows the opponent to get into position to defend better. So hopefully we see more of Madueke in the final friendly. Mosquera also got on the field for the second half and showed a pretty solid performance. He played as the right fullback for about 15 minutes, then replaced Saliba in the center once Timber came on. Speaking of Timber, we got to see some minutes from both him and Gabriel in the second half. I imagine Gabriel at least will start the next game in preparation for match day 1. My final thoughts on the friendly. It's a friendly, so I don't put much thought into the loss, especially since it seems intentional that Arteta used a different tactic than normal. I also believe that this match probably finalized whose names are on the top of the list for most positions on the team. The pace and tactics of Villareal would also have brought to light certain gaps in the squad that Arteta still has to fill before the end of the transfer window. And with that, we've come to the end of my review of the penultimate Arsenal friendly. If you enjoyed this post-match breakdown, smash the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss our match reviews. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you for the next video.